When I was 21, I did something most of my friends back home thought was reckless. I packed my bags, I left the UK, and I moved here to Moscow, to Russia. I wasn't running from anything. It wasn't like I felt stuck in the UK. I just wanted something bigger, something faster, something new, something more interesting. And Moscow felt like a different planet. Endless metro tunnels with Soviet chandeliers, skyscrapers glowing like science fiction, and 24-hour life full of people I didn't quite understand, but desperately wanted to. And guess what? Within a few months, I went from a totally broke student in London to a millionaire. And in this video, I'll tell you how. Today I'm walking through the Zil area of Moscow, the city's newest residential district and one of the most sought after places to live in the entire city. And only a decade ago, this was a giant car factory, the legendary Zil plant that once built limousines for Soviet leaders, and of course other cars and trucks. That's all gone now. That was all demolished in 2012. The production halls were closed, the streets were redrawn, and in their place rose this. It's called Zil Art. It's a dense new neighborhood of apartments and cafes and schools, all built from scratch on old factory ground. And it's a part of a bigger shift happening across Moscow in general. The old industrial belts alongside the river are being torn down and rebuilt into modern districts like this. The skyline is being filled with new residential buildings, landscaped courtyards, and new public spaces. And this really was a grimy part of Moscow, and it's turned into what you can only call one of Moscow's boldest urban renewal projects, and a really nice place to go for a walk. When I first moved to Moscow in 2018, I lived in a pretty rough area called Chutanovo, which is like far in the south, and I chose it because it was cheap and I didn't really know anything about Moscow's geography. All I cared was that there was a metro station so I could get anywhere relatively quickly. Now I live more centrally, but if I were moving here for the first time today, this area, Zil, would probably top my list. It's new and modern and actually planned with wide walkable streets. Just look at this. It's a really, really comfortable place to live with a park and proper contemporary architecture with cafes and shops on the ground floor. Plus the metro is right here, so you're just minutes from the centre but still have space and fresh air. It's a really cool part of the city. A big reason this area is so popular is this park here. It's the Green Heart of Zil. It actually runs alongside the new neighbourhood on the footprint of the old assembly shops. And now it's been turned into a long sculpted public park, goes all the way back there to back here. It's actually, this park area is named after the local Chufelka backwater of the Moscow River, and its design actually keeps a nod to the past of this area. You see an elevated steel walkway here, and here it goes all around the park, built from the factory's old crane track, and it loops around the park. It's about 10 acres of open space with winding paths, small little hills and features, water features, and of course plenty of seating. The locals around here use it for weekend walks, cycling, picnics, especially on a beautiful day like this. And really you can see the rough industrial sort of textures that have been mixed with new landscaping mean that you really feel a trace of the industry that once dominated this entire area of Moscow, while standing in a new, livable, modern Moscow residential area. I really like it. Another striking change here is the beautiful new embankment. What used to be fenced off, polluted shoreline is now a long riverside promenade with wide footpaths, bike lanes and steps that drop right into the water. The city rebuilt and landscaped the river's edge so people can walk, run, sit or just watch the boats. That was absolutely unthinkable just a decade ago when this area was full of smokestacks and warehouses. The embankment also connects directly to the residential courtyards, so you can leave your flat in the Zill area and you can be on the river within minutes, and you can even take one of these boats into the centre if that's what you want to do. I guess I have to say here, I've seen so many new housing complexes in Moscow. If you've never been here, I cannot possibly explain to you how much Moscow has changed since I first moved here in 2018. There's so many areas which are run down or very industrial and now have huge housing complexes out of nowhere. The city has just changed absolutely. It's absolutely unrecognizable to what it was when I first moved here, and that change and growth is continuing non-stop. And I have to say, even with all those changes, this is the most impressive, because here there was literally nothing. It's not like an old housing area has been knocked down and replaced. This was just factories. For a century it was just factories, and now it's a brand new, highly livable, very walkable, very accessible, just a really great area and very impressive, honestly. I don't say that very much about things ever. I'm not easily impressed, but I do actually find this very impressive, far more so than so many others of the housing places that I've looked at. Right, so before I head home and get back on the metro, let's get to what you really clicked here for, how I became a millionaire here in Moscow, here in Russia. Well, when I first arrived, I got a decent job. It was nothing glamorous, but it was enough to live well and save a bit at the end of the month. And after a few months, I'd built a small cushion. Then, one day, I opened my Sberbank app. It was the bank I used at the time. Of course, it's sanctioned now. I opened my app and there it was, 7 digits. I froze, my heart jumped. I was 22 and officially, mathematically, a millionaire. So was I some sort of secret tech founder? Was I a crypto genius? Was I a Russian oligarch in training? No, the truth is actually spectacularly unsexy. I just moved my tiny UK savings from the UK into my Russian bank a couple of weeks before, and I worked a couple of months. And thanks to the exchange rate, boom, 1 million Russian rubles. So at the time, that was about, I don't know, say $12,000. Really not a lot of money. It's barely enough for a used car. But the app didn't care. It showed me 7 glorious figures. So I can say, without lying, that I became a millionaire at 22 years old. And for one shining moment, I guess I was richer than I ever dreamed. Just not quite in the currency I dreamed. So yeah, dreams do come true. Maybe you have to come to Moscow to achieve them, or maybe you just have to pick the right currency. Thanks, and goodbye.